Witness Stones project is this really wonderful, unique opportunity for the students here where we partner with local historians, with the directors of the Witness Stones project to highlight the humanity of the enslaved people who lived in this town.
I never really thought about slavery in the context of West Hartford beforehand. I had always seen it as, and it's funny as an African American to think that, but as kind of a Southern thing. It's kind of easy to ignore the racial tension or race issues that they have in New England, even nowadays.
Students get to kind of shift their understanding about the role that the North played in promoting and profiting from slavery and learn more intimately about the life of an enslaved person who lived in our town. And we were able to learn about the life of Pelignot. And he has such a remarkable story, serving in the Revolutionary War.
He was a carter during the Revolutionary War. He supplied the French troops with all of the materials and supplies they needed. It's actually a record of him paying a toll going up Avon Mountain. So that's how we kind of know that he had his own ambition and initiative, and he was his own guy.
He returned from the war and was able to manage 150 acres of land. And then we know that he was eventually freed.
His story is important in humanizing African Americans who lived during this time period, but we can't also say, oh, because one African American man was free and had all this and had all that, oh, they were all treated well. It's not true. Life for a slave was really, really bleak. Your grandchildren are going to be enslaved too. You might get the whip the next morning. I mean, so many bad things could happen, but it's kind of, I like the fact that other less prominent slaves, people who maybe never escaped the bondage of slavery, were able to see and have a little bit of hope when they looked at Pelignot. I feel like it's something that I discovered, not something that was discovered for me, and made me more interested in exploring my surroundings and exploring the world around me. I feel like I'm not just a person observing the world, I'm a person doing things to help uncover things in the world, kind of like an Indiana Jones of West Hartford history.
Students start to see themselves as public historians, so they're not just absorbing this information and kind of learning it for knowledge's sake, but we're really asking them to go out into the community and to educate people, to shift the narrative that people previously have about the North's role. I had some students who wrote a letter to the town council advocating for a changing of a name of a street in town. Out of the 40,000 some odd streets there are in West Hartford, we discovered that none of them are named after people of African descent.
They were able and have been able to identify almost 80 Black Americans who were vital members in this town in the 1700s who were slaves. I never thought that West Hartford or some of the surrounding towns had slaves, that there were white wealthy landowners here who had slaves working for them, not as free people, but as slaves. These are slaves who contributed significantly to the economy of this community in its early stages. They weren't even considered human, they were property. We tend as Americans to take our freedom, our liberty, and our rights for granted, but these are people who had none of those things and died without ever understanding, appreciating, or living them. And so they are West Hartford residents. They're in as much a resident here as you or I. I have come to think of it as we found you.